Today we want to have a closer look at how to design a commercial van. And we start in the VW factory in Wolfsburg, right after the Second World War. The factory was under British control and borrowed vehicles from the British Army to transport items within the factory. But if the British Army needed the vehicles, VW couldn't transport parts within the factory anymore. So the idea came up to quickly design and build a vehicle with the Kübelwagen parts they had. The result was the VW Plattenwagen, which was a front-loader vehicle with rear engine and rear-wheel drive. The driver sat at the back on top of the engine. Great was the small turning circle of only 7 meters, because the front wheels were not driven and could turn more. Nice was that you could always see the cargo, but if you loaded too much, you blocked your own view. These vehicles were operating in VW's factory from 1946 until the 1990s. Dutch import manager Ben Pon got the idea of creating a version with closed cabin which could be sold in the Netherlands. But Dutch authorities didn't allow a commercial vehicle where you sit behind the cargo. But because they saw a market for such a vehicle, they developed a concept for a commercial vehicle based on the Beetle platform, with the driver sitting in front of the front wheels, while keeping the engine at the back. Now, the problem with such a concept is that you either have a platform at the back, which is relatively high to sit above the engine, or you have a closed van with low floor in the middle, but a raised section at the back to cover the engine. Because of that, the first VW T1s had no tailgate and only got one a little later. But the tailgate was always a lot higher than the side doors. Now, the North German company Tempo took the VW drivetrain and optimized the concept. They put the drivetrain at the front axle. The result was a van with front-wheel drive, while the passengers sat pretty much like in the T1. Advantage now was that all technology was in front and you could basically do whatever you want at the back. You could have a lower platform or a car transporter or a closed van with low floor and large opening at the back. Everything was possible because the rear axle was now just rolling with the car, but there was no engine in the back anymore. So you could just produce the front part of the car and shorten or extend the rear. Unfortunately, the Matador was around 20% more expensive than a T1 and Tempo didn't have long-time contracts for VW's engine supply. And so VW quickly stopped supplying Tempo with engines, and that was the end of the first Matador. Meanwhile, in Ingolstadt, the newly founded West German DKW used the pre-war DKW F9 construction with front-wheel drive for a commercial vehicle. The difference here was that the passengers were sitting behind the front axle, which reduced the available cargo space. In East Germany, the former DKW company also produced a commercial van based on the DKW F9, the Barkas B1000. This vehicle was very similar to the DKW Schnelllaster, but passengers were sitting here in front of the front axle. That allowed much more cargo space and the slim inline 3-cylinder 2-stroke engine was sitting between the passengers. Also here, the whole technology was in front, and you could modify the vehicle to whatever you want at the back. Now with increased safety standards, sitting in front of the front axle is not possible today anymore, so commercial vans have the passengers behind the front axle. Because you want a certain cargo height, it makes sense to position the driver higher. Sitting more upright also allows for a shorter cabin. And so the modern type of commercial van is pretty similar to the old DKW Schnelllaster concept. The cool thing about this concept is that you have everything you need to drive this vehicle, so cockpit, steering, engine, gearbox in front. So to simplify transport of these base commercial cars, they even do this. So they bolt 2 cabins together to save space. The rear of the car will be individual according to the application anyway. And now there is a new kind of vans. The vans that are based on standard road car platforms. These platforms have a very different concept and the driver sits a lot further back. But since you use an existing car platform, you can save some money. If we look at the difference between VW T6 and T7, the T7 driver sits around 30 centimeters further rearwards because it's the Golf platform. So a T7 with the same length like the T6 has 30 centimeters less storage, but a lot of unused space at the front. To have the same cargo space as the normal T6, you need to buy the T7 with an almost 30 cm extended wheelbase. And of course, the car is then also 30 centimeters longer overall, and more expensive. So the history of small commercial vans is all about simplification and an efficient package. But the latest money-saving efforts are taking some of these efficiencies away. I hope you liked this little insight, and if you did, please consider to become a B-Sport Club member for more videos like this. See you at the next one.